Welcome to OAA Now, your home for Oakland Activities Association news and information. Here's your host, Sammy Taormina.
Welcome to OAA Now. Here I'm Sammy Taormina, blog around the OAA, the host of Last Week Brain Cells, most Crew 2 Minutes, and Orion. I'd like to welcome those watching on the local voice on SoundCloud and those watching on YouTube. A lot to talk about here this week here on the podcast, a lot of basketball stuff. As we're in the holiday season, the classics are going on here, and a lot to look at. I mean, like heading into the final couple weeks of 2025 as we head into 2026. A lot to look at, a lot of storylines to really look at, especially when we got tournaments going on like the D-Zone Classic going on over at Hazel Park. Shout out to Stu Carrollton. He does a really good job promoting it. He's done a really good job promoting it. Also, we got the Motor City Roundball coming up over at Ferndale. A lot of OA teams are in that. We got the North Farmington Holiday Extravaganza. The Milford class, the Skip Classic at Milford. Of course, that's where Oxford's going to be at. And also, the Aquinas College Classic of where Waterford Vermont's going to be at during the holidays. So, a lot to look at, a lot of teams to really keep an eye on as we head into the final few months. Final few weeks of 2025. Of course, this will be the last podcast of 2025 as we head into 2026 here at the studio. So, a lot to look at here, as we head into 2026. So, a lot to look at. So let's look at, of course, the, so we'll recap 2025 as we head in 2026. But let's look at, of course, some teams that we got to keep an eye on, right now. And you think about it, you really think about, you look at the rankings, you look at the NPR, and the NPR is very interesting because I don't know how the NPR system works. And, you kind of look at strength of schedule. I know it's a component of that. I think it's more of on the boys' side than on the girls' side. I mean, the girls' side, I just don't understand why West Bloomfield is not, has a low NPR compared to, I don't know, like, say, a Ferndale University, who's basically sits at 3-0, really hasn't played anybody. And West Bloomfield is playing all these tough teams. So you got to question this. You got to question that ranking system. You got to question the NPR. You have to question it. So you think about with NPR. And you think about with rankings, when I do the top 25 in the boys and the top 24 in the girls, I have to look at the eyeball test. I don't think the NPR system really sees the eyeball test. I just don't. But also, you got to look at our team's reporting scores. And, to me, you got to be transparent when you do that, when you got to report scores. So you really think about teams with the eyeball test. You look at a team like Rochester in the boys. Rochester is the perfect example of this. They sit 7-0, and yet their NPR is right now 8th best in the league right now. So, you kind of explain to me, you look at the teams Rochester's beaten, and they look the part. They, to me, are right now, in my opinion, the best team in the white. But yet, they're right now number 2 in the NPR, behind Adams. And Rochester's 7-0. Adams is 3-3. Now they play Groves coming up at the D-Zone Classic on Monday. So that'll be shown in the rankings. In next week's rankings. So you really think about, what is an undefeated record when you don't get the top senior district. You look at a team like Lake Orion, who sits at 3-3. They played a tough schedule, but yet their NPR is pretty low. I think a lot of that's that loss to Troy Athens. But Rochester, I just don't understand. I just don't understand why Rochester, they sit at, they're 7-0 on the year, and yet their NPR is lower than 7 other teams in this league. So I'm going like, okay. Then, are we thinking 1998 when it comes to the Bowl Championship Series? I mean, you think about that year, and you think about, the year that Nebraska football, they were just absolutely devoured. Oh, that was 2001, my bad. 2001. I remember when Nebraska was absolutely swallowed by Colorado. I mean, it wasn't even close. But yet Nebraska got into the national championship game because of a computer. I kind of feel like with Rochester, this is what I feel with Rochester right now. And, and I know the good folks at Rochester, the great athletic director, Dean Allen, Coach Nick Aboa, a lot of their fans. But I just cannot figure out why a computer is keeping Rochester right now low. Right now, they're keeping them down right now. When you look at the eyeball test and you say to yourself, Rochester might be one of the most dangerous teams in the league. They beat Chippewa Valley, and yet Chippewa Valley knocked off Waterford Mott. They didn't beat Chippewa Valley. They blew out Chippewa Valley. And then Chippewa Valley goes and beats Waterford Mott. So I don't understand the system. I really just don't understand the NPR system. Now, every system's not perfect. And, how are you going to seed these teams? So I feel like Rochester's getting a bad rap here when it comes to the NPR. I just feel that way. Despite them being 7-0, they're just getting a bad rap. You look at a team like Avondale, who just suffered their first loss to Clarkston. Sorry, to Freeland. And Clarkston just suffered their first loss to Saginaw Heritage. And yes, their NPR is really high right now. Both of them. But I'm curious to see what happens with those two teams. And then you look at North Farmington and Farmington. Those two teams played. I still don't know how North Farmington blew a 17-point lead to allow Farmington to come back, force overtime, and they beat them for the second straight time. They beat them in the district semifinals last year. And now you go into North's place, come back from 17 down, and win. And they still got to play again at Farmington. And then, likely, these two teams are going to clash in the districts. Most likely district final, because I think these two teams are going to be seeded. 1-2 in their district. I think they're going to be seeded. Now, Redford Thurston might have a say about it, but you look at the NPR, you got to wonder how the NPR is doing this based on their math. You got to wonder. So, I know Rochester fans are going to have a real beef with this, and I don't blame them. But you have to look at the strength of schedule component. And what the NPR is saying is, well, Rochester's schedule might not be as tough as people think they are. But when you look at the eyeball test of Rochester, they got a team. They got a team. They got proven players. They got improving players. You know, Ben Bissett's much improved this year. Nate Tandy's made some noise this year. Logan Pleasant's been very good. Anthony Chicharo's been very good. I mean, Luke Lohr's been very good. I mean, the thing is, I just don't understand with the NPR and with Rochester. To me, Rochester should be higher. They should be higher in the NPR. I had them at 3 last week in the poll, but I had to move down to 8 because of the NPR component. But to me, I feel like Rochester's probably the third best team in the league right now. I feel that way. Behind, obviously, Avondale and Clarkson. I mean, I think out of those teams, I think Rochester can give both Farmington schools a game. I really do. But that's what the NPR is right now. And you look at a team that also has been getting disrespected in the NPR. It's been like Orion. Now, obviously, the loss to Athens doesn't help things, but you could tell. You look at Davison. Davison's been getting better. I mean, Novi, has been up and down. I mean, they play Clarkston, Plymouth Salem. Both those teams are solid. So, I don't know. I just don't know. When it looks like, how you rank teams on the NPR, you just can't worry about that until district time. You just can't worry about that. So, if I had to say to both teams, Rochester, Lake Orion, just play the season out and see what happens. Because you look at the NPR, NPR is just like, it's a big component, don't get me wrong. It is a big component. But those are the two teams I feel like right now is getting shafted by the NPR. I just feel that way. And I think those two teams are better with the eyeball test than based on a computer. You got to see the eyeball test before you decide what team's good, what team's legit. We can't just have like a 2001 national champion. I mean, like what happened with the BCS. And I know most people remember Nebraska getting in there instead of, there were a couple teams that should have gotten in there that were better qualified than Nebraska. I mean, Nebraska didn't make their conference championship game. And yet they go as the number 2 team into a national championship game. That just don't make sense. And I get a lot of Rochester fans' frustration. I totally get it. But if I had to say something to them right now, I'd say just play the season out, see what happens. Same thing I'd say like Orion. NPR is a little bit lower. See how it plays out. When we look at other teams that, could be a team that very much, is Waterford Mott's a very interesting story. Because you look at Waterford Mott and they knocked off a very good Goodrich team. Goodrich is a good team. Good program. coached by Gary Morris. But that lost to Chippewa Valley. So there are some weaknesses with Waterford Vermont, especially if you shut down the guards. Isaiah Alston and Jordan White. You shut them down, they got problems. I mean, yes, they got Toy Robinson there. You got the Car Stevens there. But everything starts with Mott with the guards. If you don't stop the guards, you're gonna have problems. If you let Toy Robinson get going, that's a problem. And Dakar Stevens, you know what he's capable of. But Waterford Mott, they've got two very. The Chippewa Valley loss is mind-boggling considering what happened with Chippewa Valley against Rochester. Then the Heartland loss. Heartland's a very. I think they're top tier of the KLA West, but near average. I still think you look at that division in the KLA West and you think to yourself, okay, you got Salem there, you got Canton there. Where would Heartland and Howell rank in that? I don't know if Heartland would be top tier. I just don't know that. So that's a tough one for Waterford Mott. You know, beating Goodrich is a big deal. That's a huge deal. But I just don't know if I could trust the Heartland loss. I don't know if that turns out to be a bad loss, and that could be something to watch for. That could be really something to watch for. I mean, you look at Avondale and Clarkson's losses to Freeland and Saginaw Heritage, respectively. Both those teams are very good teams. But I don't know how the NPR sees it. Then you look at, obviously what's hurting Lake Orion is that Troy Athens loss. They did knock off Utica Eisenhower. That's a good win for them. Be curious how they play against Lincoln Park. Really curious. Oxford right now is start out 3-0, lost 3 straight. I mean, obviously the Utica Eisenhower game really bothered Oxford. I mean, they lost by 1 point. And they got devoured by Troy. And then they lost to Lakeland. Lakeland's not a bad team. Lakeland, when I look at them, you know, you look at that Lakes Valley Conference and you say to yourself, okay, Walt Lake Central's still a team to beat. Western's a player. Walt Lake Northern's starting to become a player again because you have Ryan Negocian coaching them, and of course you have the Hall of Fame coach Todd Negocian being his assistant. Todd Negocian being his assistant. So with Oxford's case, you know, I'm not going to say the honeymoon's over, but it looks like it might be close to that. But for Oxford, the Milford, the Skip Classic, that's huge for them. Because they got a tough one with Milford. And that's not an easy game. And then and let's say if Oxford wins, they play in the championship game either against South Lyon East or Heartland. And then the losers would meet in the 4:30 consolation game. So you kind of think about where Oxford's at right now. They're kind of in a tough spot right now. You look at Adams, obviously Cannon Flynn. They didn't have a good loss against Grosse Pointe South. I mean, they lost a heartbreaker by 1 to them. They get Groves, of course. Groves, we know, has been struggling in the red right now. But they hung tough with Clarkston. I mean, West Bloomfield in the red right now looks like a soap opera. Days of Our Lives. Because there's games where they're putting up big points, but their defense is still not very good. I mean, their defense is a problem. East Kentwood, they gave up 77. This is a team that's given up over 50 points in the last, I think it's been a long while since West Bloomfield held an opponent under 49 points. It's been a long while. So I gotta see more defense from Coach Arnett Jordan's Lakers. I gotta see it. So in the Ferndale course, we know it's been hit hot and cold lately. I mean, they had a tough one at Hamtramck. They're playing a tough schedule. And they still got to play some very good teams again. They got Rockford coming up in the Motor City Round Ball. Don't get me started with the Round Ball. Been very critical of the Round Ball. So you think about, and then of course you have Stony Creek right now. Excuse me. Who's been rolling? Marco Tomic has clearly got that team turned around. Kids are believing in the system, especially the seniors after what happened under Coach Jeff Owen. He's got that team believing. Really does. Stony Creek, they're starting to believe again. So when I look at the divisions, I look at the divisions right now. The red, I still think it's going to be Abnell Clarkston. And then you have Farmington, North Farmington. Right now, the 3-4s. Ferndale could be in that conversation around the 3-4-5. Then it's West Bloomfield and Groves. White is still pretty much wide open. Then in the blue, Bloomfield Hills had a really tough loss the other night to Ann Arbor Huron. Ann Arbor Huron's a very good team. So I give Coach Brian Canfield's team a pass here. I'm going to give him a pass because Huron's a very good team. They still got to play Detroit Cass Tech in the PSL Classic, and I think Lansing Catholic in the Motor City Round Ball. So Bloomfield Hills, they're a very good team. They're going to be fine. I'm not pressing any panic buttons with Bloomfield Hills. I'm really not. Pontiac had a tough loss the other night. But I think they're going to be okay. I think Pontiac will be fine. Athens, of course, that big one against Lake Orion. But a rough one against Harperwood Chandler Park Academy. Now, don't get me wrong, Harperwood Chandler Park is very good this year. They are good. Still, it was a rough one for Athens. Really rough one. I think it was 70-46. I mean, like, that's something to watch for. And then you look at, of course, you look at Troy. Troy, big win against Oxford. Then they ran to Adams, had a tough one with them. They sit at 5-2 right now. They are in the North Farmington Holiday Extravaganza. Got a very interesting one coming up. We'll see what happens there, but I think Troy's in a good spot. Royal Oak, they're sitting at 5-2. I think Coach Aaron Smith's team's fine. They got the Motor City Roundabout coming up, but right now they're clicking. They're playing well right now. Seaholm came out to a 2-0 start. Then they've lost 4 straight. Something's amiss there. Something really is amiss over there with Seaholm. Really is. And then we look at the gold division. Harper Woods sits at 1-3 right now. They had a good win the other day. And they had a really rough loss the other night. Apologize for my coughing here because, more I talk, you know what I mean? It's cough for some reason. I don't know why. You look at Harper Woods, they're a young team. A very young team. But still, when you're basically, if you're Coach Tawan Porter, basically coaching at a football school like Harper Woods, it's going to be challenging. Get athletes. Very challenging. They're going to take some growing pains a little bit here. They played a tough schedule. I commend Southfield A&T, though. They have played a tough schedule. They are better than what their record indicates because of that tough schedule. I think Coach Josh Lyle is basically saying to his team, you got to play this type of schedule to get yourself better. So I commend Coach Josh Lyle for doing that. Oak Park's sitting at 2-0 right now. Winning games ugly, though. Defensively, they've been pretty good. We'll see what happens. Waterford Kettering. 2-4 right now. 2-5 right now. They had a tough one at the Waterford Mott Classic. Now, I give Waterford Mott a lot of credit when it comes to hosting classic games. They're on their Twitter feed reporting scores. And they do a phenomenal job. I give Coach Jeff Jason and whoever runs the Twitter page at Waterford Mott a ton of credit for reporting scores. I give them a ton of credit for that. They do a very good job running their holiday classics. I give them props for that. And then Ferndale University. Ferndale University is really struggling right now. They gotta get some scoring figured out quick. They gotta at least get some playing time in there. They haven't played in a while. So we'll see what happens. We're gonna preview, of course, when we talk girls here. We're gonna look at the classics this week. You look at, of course, obviously the Motor City Roundball. We're going to preview that. We're going to also start off with the boys side of things here. North Farmington Holiday Extravaganza. Seaholm takes on Plymouth Salem at noon. This is going to be a very tough game for Seaholm. It's going to be a very tough game. Plymouth Salem is very good. When they play team ball, they're very dangerous. Avenel plays Detroit Mumford 3 p.m. That time, December 27th. Should be an interesting one. Pretty much should be. That could be a high-scoring game. 28, Troy plays Brighton at 3:30. That should be a fun game. That'll be really interesting. Be curious to see how Troy handles Brighton. I'll be very curious. Farmington plays Birmingham Detroit Country Day. It's a 6 p.m. tip. All these times are approximately. So that should be a fun matchup. Farmington coming out that big win against North Farmington. Then you have North Farmington taking on Waterford Mott. It's an 8 p.m. tip. That should be a good game. I'll be curious to see how North handles Torrey Robinson and Dakari Stevens in the post. I think North guard wise should have an advantage there. Then Monday, December 29th, Seaham plays Wall Lake Northern at 3 p.m. Difficult match for Seaham going up against the Ryan Negocian-like team. Then North Farmington takes on Warren De La Salle at 6 p.m. Favorable match for North Farmington. Warren De La Salle, a little bit down this year. See how that one goes. The Detroit Public School League Showcase. That one, of course, yeah, Boomby Hills taking on Detroit Denby. That should be an interesting game. That's on the 29th of December. December 27th at AU Alumni Classic at Aquinas. You got Waterford Mott taking on Lansing Catholic. Should be a good matchup there. See how that one goes. The Skip Holiday Classic, I talked a little bit about it on the Oxford segment. Of course, Oxford plays Milford at 5:30. And of course, I mentioned the winners will play in the championship game at 5:30. The losers will play at 4:30. You got the Romulus Summit Academy Showcase on Sunday, December 28th. Lake Orion's playing in that. They're playing Lincoln Park at 4 p.m. Should be an interesting matchup. Could Coach Jose Andrade use this game? Even though Lincoln Park's a very good team, they're sitting at 7-0 right now. I mean, obviously, for both these teams, you know what I mean? This is an interesting matchup. I mean, both teams have different styles. Both teams that go up and down. Both teams are solid defensively. So we'll see what happens there. I think it's a good matchup. We'll see how that one goes between the Dragons and the Red Spizzlers. Then we have the Motor City Roundabout. Oak Park takes on Hazel Park at 10:45. I mean, starting on Saturday here. Oak Park plays Hazel Park at 10:45 a.m. Josh Nix taking on the OAA. Of course, he's now the new coach at Hazel Park, formerly at Ferndale University. Should be an interesting matchup. Oak Park, we know, is a very athletic team. A&T and Adams at 12:15. That's going to be an interesting matchup. I'm curious to see how A&T handles Cannon Flynn. West Bloomfield Harper Woods, 4:55. That could be a shootout. I mean, that could really be, because both teams love to score. Defense very optional in that game. And then Ferndale takes on Rockford, 6:25 p.m. For Ferndale, home court, Rockford traveling across the state. Should be a good matchup. Should be an interesting matchup, to say the least. Curious to see how Ed Venier matches up with Rockford. And Rockford's a very deep team. Their guards was very good. It can be a task for Ferndale. And Coach Juan Rickman. Be a very tall task. Then we have on the 28th of December, we got Berkeley taking on Blue Bills Cranbrook Kingswood at 10:45. It's a must win for Berkeley. I just don't know what to say with the Bears after losing to American International Academy. He's hit 2-5, 2-4. I just don't know what to say about him. I mean, they're out to a rough start. I know they're a young team, but still, losing the American International Academy, that's concerning for me. That's really concerning. Then Royal Oak takes on St. Clair at 12:15. That should be a good game. I think that should be a very interesting game. Could this be an opportunity for Coach Aaron Smith to show everyone that Royal Oak is for real? If that's the case, this is a good opportunity for them against a good St. Clair team. I mean, they're not bad. They're not bad. That should be a fun matchup. December 29th, Farmington, Macomb, Dakota, 1 p.m. This should be a fun game. Both teams want to go up and down. We know Dakota's well coached under Coach Paul Taco. Obviously, Dakota's got a very good guard. Farmington, we know, has got a very good team. They play team ball. They're athletic. They have a big and Randall Rice who can make some noise. This should be a really good game. Then Avondale Hamtramck, 7:55. This should be a really good game. Hamtramck coming off a 2-point win against Ferndale. And then Avondale, we know, well-coached team. I mean, this is a very good team. And then December 30th, Pontiac takes on Detroit Pershing at 10:45 a.m. Difficult match for Pontiac, taking on a very athletic Detroit Pershing team. And then Bloomfield Hills takes on Lansing Catholic at 12:15. That should be an interesting game, to say the least there. So, that's the Motor City Roundball Classic for the OAA. Part of the tournament. Part of the classics. Now let's go to girls basketball. You look in the girls' side of things, you tend to look at the storylines. There's some starting to come from surprises and some not so surprising. You kind of think about teams that really have been surprises. I mean, I think the team you start with is a team that's really surprised people has been Troy Athens. Obviously, you look at the Red Hawks, off to a 5-1 start. Katrina Tashich has really played well for them, for Coach Stacey Klump. They got others as well that has really contributed. But Athens, to me, right now, they're gaining confidence, and that's a good sign for Coach Stacey Klump. Really good sign. So they're sitting really nice right now at 5-1 right now. Team that I'm most surprised with is Bloomfield Hills. I asked myself this question before the start of the year during media day. I talked to Coach Ronaldo Brown, and he said they were going to be a very young team. So I kind of thought, okay, you got to be patient with them. You got to be just patient with them. All Bloomfield Hills has done is basically go on all Bloomfield Hills has done is, all they have done is they have went 3-1. Only loss was to Orchard Lake St. Mary's, where everybody's getting destroyed by St. Mary's. And here they are sitting at 3-1. They get scoring, they get defense, playing good basketball. So that's credit to Coach Brown and his staff. They're a surprise right now. Another team to watch that's been surprising me has been Groves. So I'm saying to myself, okay. I look at Groves and I'm thinking to this team coming into the year is, yes, Coach, this is the second year for Coach Jessica Double. This is the second year. The last 2 games, Groves has scored 195 points. That's insane. That's just insane. Harlem Simpson's playing great basketball right now. I don't know. If you're a D1 college, it's time to start looking at this young lady. She is a scoring machine. And you look at the 2 early losses they had. Of course, Farmington's Mercy is a very good team. And then Livonia Stevenson, of course, former coach in Allison and Heidi is there. We know how good Livonia Stevenson is. But for them to do that against Fraser and Fenton says a lot. That's a credit to Groves' system, credit to Dubla, credit to the players. I mean, right now, when you look at Groves, they could make a serious playoff run. I think, to me, with Groves, it might not be division anymore. It might be postseason run. And you look at Groves, do they match up with the West Bloomfield? Do they match up with an Orchard Lake St. Mary's? I mean, those are basically the two teams to really watch for. With Groves is, right now they're on a tear right now. And they got confidence right now. They're clicking with confidence right now. So they're my biggest surprise despite sitting at 2-2. On the other side, off the slow starts, Avondale 0-3. Now, I knew it was going to be young. It was going to be a rough year for Coach Roy Christian. I knew it was going to be a rough year. I have a lot of confidence in this Yellow Jacket program that can turn this around. I have a lot of confidence in Sasha McClendon. So you really look at Avondale. One of the biggest concerns I had during the year was who's going to be McClellan's Robin. There are options. But they've ran into some good teams, don't get me wrong. I mean, they ran into some good teams. So, for me with Avondale, be patient. Be patient. And then there's one I've been just going like, what's going on with Pontiac? What's going on with Coach Corey Lett's team? 2 points. 2 games. I'm just flabbergasted. What's going on with Pontiac right now? The fact they've only scored 2 points in 2 games. I don't know what to say. I don't know what's going on with Pontiac. I really don't. There's another team that's I'm getting a little concerned about, and that's Royal Oak. Royal Oak, they're having it rough right now. So when I look at Royal Oak, and they are sitting right now at 1-3. NPR's 249. They scored 29 points in each of their last 2 games. That's not going to cut it. That's not going to cut it for Coach Brian Spada. You gotta wonder what's going on over there. I mean, they got players. I mean, Lydia Dinkins is a good player. I mean, they're just not defending. That's the issue. If you're Coach Brian Zapata, you got to get back to your old identity, which is a defense-first mindset. Because if you're not defending, you're not winning games. That's the bottom line. That's the bottom line. Excuse me. As I mentioned earlier, I mean, the more I talk, you know what I mean? I cough a little bit more. I don't know why. But I'm just saying with Royal Oak, the problem here with Royal Oak is they've got to score more. They got to start scoring. Because bottom line right now, when I look at Royal Oak, if they can't score, they're not going to win. They're not going to win. Bottom line. So those are my surprises and disappointing teams in girls basketball right now. Now let's look at the divisional aspect of it. I mean, when you look at the gold right now, I still think it's a 3-team race right now between Waterford, Farmington, and North Farmington. You can't judge Ferndale University because of their start. You can't judge them. You can't judge Ferndale University because they're 3-0 right now. They just haven't played anybody in a couple weeks. They're sitting at 3-0, got a very high NPR right now. I think I kind of misspoke on the Rochester thing earlier about Ferndale University. But you look at this situation there. With Ferndale U, I don't know if I can trust Ferndale U, even though they have the high NPR. They're one of those teams that are, they've got some big wins on there. Their last game was Marine City Cardinal Mooney, where they survived 47-38. So I'll be curious to see how many games, more non-conference games they can get, because there are some plenty of opportunity right now to get that. So we'll see what happens. Waterford right now is just at 3-1. Obviously, he's playing Savannah Taurus. You got to start questioning your non-conference a little bit, despite the high NPR. I mean, you look at that district with Waterford. You're staring at Clarkston, staring at Lake Orion, staring at Avondale, staring at Adams. Honestly, I think all four of those teams are better than Waterford right now. I would say that right now, honestly. Even though Avondale sits at 0-3, I still would trust Avondale, despite the play of Savannah Taurus. Now, obviously, the media day, Taurus talked about getting the soccer kids to come out. And it looks like for Waterford, they've really contributed. Now, what helps Waterford is the fact they're a merged school, because you got Kettering and Kettering and Mott, and they're merged. So if you're coaching Andrew Wellman, that's kind of a good thing for you. North Farmington right now, I think they're sitting at 3-1. Their only loss was to Western. Lucy Nemit's been a very good player for them. She's going to have to be the catalyst to carry them forward. Farmington, I just don't trust them. I just don't trust Farmington. I know Coach Andy Nowak. I just don't know if I can trust them right now. I mentioned Pontiac earlier. Oak Park saw the 1-1 start. Had a rough one against Walled Lake Central. So when I look at the division right now, and the Ferndale University, I talked about them earlier. They haven't played a lot of games right now. I mean, they're 3-0, high NPR, but I need to see how they do against Waterford, Farmington, and North Farmington. So when I look at this division right now, I would say I would give the edge to, I would say right now, with the eyeball test, Waterford right now, then North, then Farmington, followed by Ferndale U, Oak Park, Pontiac. That's my take in that division. In the blue, obviously, A&T's been very inconsistent lately. A&T's been a team that's been, up and down. I mean, it depends if you're getting good A&T or bad A&T. We don't know. But right now they're 2-2. It'll be interesting to see where they're at right now. Adams sits at 2-1. I think they're more happier under Coach Justin Howard. Obviously Faith Zolis, Jordan Jarrell. I think Adams is fine. I'm not pressing the panic button about Adams. Even though they had that loss to Stony Creek, I think they're going to be okay. And obviously talking to Coach Howard during media day, they're right there. They're right there. Troy's off to a good start. Obviously, Olivia Sprangler, Macy Zider, Carly Higginbottom. The three big key players for Coach Laura Guzman. You look at Troy, the way that they're playing fine right now. But a part of me says they had that danger sign there. I don't know if it's last year's expectations or if expectations with this year's group. I still think with this year's group, it's still high. It's still high. Even though Diamond Prince is no longer there, the expectations, they're still high. And that's the thing I'd say about with Troy. Expectations are still high. Harper Woods right now is off to a 3-1 start. They've rebounded nicely since their loss to Farm Till's Mercy. They're going to be an interesting team to watch. Ferndale, I can't judge them yet. They haven't played a game yet. So when I look at this division right now, I would say, right now, I would have to give the edge. I would say it's Troy, Athens, A&T, Adams, Harper Woods, Ferndale. And the reason why I say that's because I think A&T, their upside's high. Harper Woods, I got some concerns despite the 3-1 start. Adams, I think they're going to be fine. But right now, the division looks like right now it's either Troy or Troy Athens right now. And right now I have to give the edge to Troy because of obviously their experience. Now, Athens has experience as well when you look at Tassage, obviously. So, it'll be interesting to see. In the white, I talked about Boomby Hills already. Talked about Groves already. Seaholm's off to a rough start. I mean, yes, they lost some experience, but I didn't expect the start that they had. I mean, no one did. Then Berkeley, I didn't expect them to struggle like this a little bit. They're struggling a little bit. Royal Oak, I talked about earlier. So you look at this division, you think to yourself, what's going on here with this division? So when I look at this division in the white, to me, Groves looks like they're the team to beat. And it might not be close. Excuse me. Might not be close. Then, I would say right now, in this division, Groves is the team to beat. Seaholm, to me, looks like they're in the bottom. Avondale, I think, is going to be okay. So I look at this division right now. I still think Avondale is the second best team in this division, despite their struggles. So I would say right now, Groves, Avondale, Berkeley, Royal Oak. Actually, no, take that. Let me start over. Groves, Bloomfield Hills, Avondale, Berkeley, Royal Oak, Seaholm. That's what I'm looking at right now. Those 6 teams. Heading into the new year. And then we look at the red. You look at Clarkston. Clarkston right now, they're an interesting team. Had to survive against Detroit Country Day, 45-43. Congratulations, Eliana Roback on her 1,000th career point. Then they got blown out by Orchard Lake St. Mary's. Now, everybody's been getting blown out by Orchard Lake St. Mary's. So you look at Clarkston, obviously Brooklyn Colbert, Eliana Roback. You have Bella Flavin, Ava Wasilik. Been playing good basketball. Be curious to see how they do when they go out to Reynoldsburg, Ohio. That should be an interesting one. Good bonding experience. Be curious to see if they're traveling down there or, getting a hotel or something like that. I mean, because Reynoldsburg's it's a hike from Clarkson. It is a hike. But right now, Clarkson, they're okay. They're fine. Then there's West Bloomfield. West Bloomfield had a nice win against Detroit Mumford. Sharon Beal 28. I'm telling you. I think the Lakers are, by the NPR perspective, I think they're disrespected by the NPR. Yes, they had that tough loss to Wayne Memorial. But I still feel like West Bloomfield's West Bloomfield. They're fine. They're going to be fine. Oxford's basically, a lot of them has been riding with Caitlin Brockway. She had 25 against Macomb, Dakota. I think they're as good as Caitlin Brockway takes them. I mean, Mia Champagne's a solid player, don't get me wrong. She's a good player. But they're as good as Brockway takes them. Stony Creek, I still have warning signs with this team. And I know a lot of people say, well, Stony Creek could be a good team. They could be a good team. They lost a good team, don't get me wrong. My question is, with them is, what happens if the Avashis struggle? If Samantha Fulkerson struggles? Jalen Freeman struggles? I don't trust this team based on depth. And there's warning signs all over this team. Despite the record, they're still a good team. I mean, Coach Columbus Williams is a good coach. But I just feel like there's warning signs. Can I trust this team to go up against Utica Eisenhower? Can I trust this set of girls to go up against Utica Eisenhower in a district on the road? That's my big question for Stony Creek. Can I trust them? There's warning signs all over this team. There really is. And then there's Rochester. Rochester, I'm still trying to figure out how they lost to Romeo. I mean, Romeo's not a bad team, don't get me wrong. They're not. But still, they bounced back and beat Troy pretty handily. But I know they want that Romeo game back. It wouldn't surprise me if those two teams would meet in the playoffs. They're in the same district. Really wouldn't surprise me. And then there's Lake Orion. I mean, Lake Orion right now, they sit 3-2. Developing some confidence. It looks like they're starting to develop an identity. And if that's the case, that's a good sign for Coach Bob Bridges. Now, they did play Orchard Lake St. Mary's. Now, that game ended up being a no contest because of a power outage that occurred on Thursday in Lake Orion. Power pole actually went down at a Kroger store in the area. So if you look at the MHA website and you look at the game that's with Orchard Lake St. Mary's being canceled on there, that explains why. So that game was deemed a no contest. And Lake Orion sits at 3-2. Kelsey King's been playing well. Kara Vita's been playing well. I think the key for Bridges is going to be Mary Graves. If she plays well, Lake Orion's going to have something. And then obviously Jasmine Randolph, she plays consistent basketball. Lake Orion might have something. And this team's supposed to be down this year. So, we'll see what happens. So, in the red overall, I would say I'd put West Bloomfield, Clarkston, Stony Creek, Rochester, Oxford, Orion right now. And this division can be interchangeable. So, that's the take right now. If Lake Orion is in the underdog role, that makes them more dangerous. We'll see what happens.